This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jeff Gardner.
Welcome to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have another good neighbor on, Stacey Kost with Simply Design. Stacey, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi.
Happy to have you on. We know that you've already done some work with BVM, but I'm going to treat it as I know nothing and really dive into your story. So, Stacey, what is Simply Design?
So Simply Design is, I provide interior design consulting and project management so that we can help our busy homeowners have functional spaces with style. And the rundown really is that I work closely with my clients to help work with them rather than just tell them what to do, to help them get the functionality of their space so that it can and have it reflect their personal style.
Beautiful. So explain to me so you did consulting and project management. Explain to me what consulting and product management actually means for the potential client out there. What does that look like?
So the interior design consulting process is really the planning of the proposed renovation, whether it's something as small as a custom closet or a feature wall or a full kitchen overhaul or even a full house renovation. The interior design consulting and interior design services are about that planning process of preparing drawings and visuals so that the client can visualize what the outcome of the project can be. And the project management is about implementing that design plan into the actual renovation itself, where project management differs slightly from, say, a general contracting relationship. Is we put a lot more organization into it. Everything is very pre-planned and we run a very tight ship so that the renovations kind of move smoothly, on schedule, on budget, because we've, through the design process, made all the decisions and choices, and the client has had an opportunity to get a visual of what the outcome is supposed to look like. And then based on that design, we know up front what we're looking for materials and finishes to be able to pre-order everything. And then I'm also able to lay out a sort of timetable of how the work is going to flow through the renovation process so that I can make sure all the trades are pre-booked so that, as soon as demo is finished, the electrician can come in. And then once the electrician's done, the plumber can come in. And then if there's framing modifications, that happens. And then maybe the electrician has to come back and do whatever work is required. And then we go into drywall work and so on. And so then our projects just have a really great track record of finishing on time and generally on budget, provided that the house cooperates with us and the clients don't add too many things or change their mind along the way. But that's part of the design process, is to eliminate a lot of backpedaling that could occur through a renovation or a new construction build.
Okay, so I love it. Okay, so I am looking to renovate my house. I have some ideas in my head. At least I've identified what I don't like, right? That's often where we start. Is my kitchen is cramped. Let's just say that it's cramped. I can't get two people in there. Me and the girlfriend are bumping into each other constantly. When we want to host, we start getting frustrated because there's 10 people in a 2-person kitchen. So at least I've identified that my kitchen does not fit my lifestyle. So I decide to give you a call. You come and meet with me. I guess you check the space. You see what I'm looking for. I'm sure we check budget, and then you start mapping out, this is my suggestions based on your goals. This is what it could look like. So you slowly start to paint the picture of what that planning process would look like, what the finished product would look like. I say yes. And then you book all the trades and you walk me through step by step. You're kind of that guide along the way that glues everything together, that makes sure that plan is executed as it was proposed.
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay. I like it. All right. Something that we really like to get into on this show is we like to go a little bit deeper. I was talking to you in the pre-show about connection. And I think a big part of connecting with other human beings, as that's what we're trying to do here, is understanding their story. Like, what's the backstory here? It's like, I look at each human being as a book, right? A deep, deep, long book. I've been around for 37 years. There's a lot of pages in there. If I just judge a book by its cover, I'm probably missing out on a lot of value. It's certainly been that way with my life. I used to do that, judge people just by that outward appearance, that first impression. And there's probably a lot of relationships that I missed out on. Whereas now I try to go a little bit deeper. One of the ways I go deeper is I ask, why? Why are you living the life you're living? How did you get to this place that you're at right now? So can you tell us a little bit about the why, the story? Like what brought you to creating this business, being an entrepreneur, interior design, consulting, and project management? What brought you to that, Stacey?
So my dad's a cabinet maker. I grew up with a bit of a woodworking background. I learned how to use a bandsaw when I was 7, and I used to design and try and build furniture for my Barbies, not so successfully, but growing up, I kind of wanted to be an architect. Like it's consistent from like grade 2 on, architect. And then as I was going through the motions of high school and looking into post-secondary school, I stumbled upon the field of interior design and decided that that was the career path I wanted to go in. So I finished, I graduated from Georgian College from the interior design program, third in my class with a 4-month baby in my arms. So I had my daughter in my last year of college. And then kind of the career took me through different areas where I was able to learn, but I always seemed to circle into the cabinet field. So my first job was doing AutoCAD for a lab furniture company. And then along the line, I evolved into a production manager of a furniture store. And then I was running the kitchen and bath department for a large retail store. And then from that, I ended up running the entire home install department in partnership with the job site manager. And then I was laid off in 2014. And that's when it was kind of that like, oh, what do I want to be when I grow up kind of moment. And so that at that point, I decided I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing now, but for myself and move the business into a way that that gives me more variety outside of just kitchens and bathrooms and windows and doors. And then so as the business evolved, this is where I landed. There were a few challenges and hurdles, but I got there. What really sort of cemented the business as a whole was when my partner decided to start up the partnering business, Simply Renovate. So that's what allows us to offer the full project management, because up until then it was mostly design that I was doing with very minor project management. But now, because the two of us are able to work together, the project management side of it is slightly self-serving in the sense that it's an opportunity for me to see my design concept come to fruition by saying, hey, we can actually make this renovation happen for you. And it gives our clients an opportunity to have that one-stop shop. But yeah, I basically grew up in the industry, and it's just sort of one of those, I guess this is where I was meant to be. And I'm fortunate to continue doing it because I love it.
Yeah. And that's, I was waiting for that last part at the end there because I love it. I mean, there are people out there. I was one for a period of time there. It was probably a 6-7 year period where I was doing something, and finally that why question came up. It's like, well, why are you doing this? I don't know. I thought the money was good and it was okay, but quality of life was really not great. I was in the HVAC world, and I provide a little context. There's nothing wrong with HVAC. I've known wonderful people and wonderful businesses there, but there's places in every industry that can be a little ugly, and where I was ugly, and did not enjoy it, and needed to pivot. So very happy to hear that you enjoy it. So you mentioned something there. You have the Simply Design part, which is planning the whole design, creating, turning an idea into reality, and then you manage the project, and then your partner is Simply Renovate. Is that what it's called?
Correct. Yeah.
So your partner then takes and does all the work, the labor.
Yeah. So basically, I do the designing and the planning and the scheduling and the sort of administrative side of managing that project. And my partner either physically does the work and or runs the job site in conjunction with any of the specialized trades that he has to bring in to do specific tasks.
It's beautiful. So it is a one-stop shop. So I have this cramped kitchen that I do not like. I call you up. You take me from A to Z, pricing, design. You paint the dream picture in my head for that kitchen. And then between you and your partner, you handle everything else. All I have to do is kind of get out of your way and let you do your thing.
Correct.
Beautiful. I love it. It's great. It's great. I think that's a hell of an offer for clients, because we deal with a lot of interior designers, and some of them just do the designing and consulting, and that's great. But I think you're going a step above by handling the whole thing. Personally, for me, I want to go to the least amount of people possible.
Yeah.
I don't want, I was using the fitness example prior to this, to coming on the show with you. I don't want somebody to handle my nutrition, handle my weight training program, handle my sleep program, handle my vitamin program. 4 different people. It's like, if I can get one that knows me well and takes care of the whole thing, that seems like a much easier process to me. So I'm glad you offer that to your clients. I think it's a great offer.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing that we like to get into is I find that knowledge, or inaccurate knowledge can really take a person on 2 very different trajectories. I use the seatbelt example for the people, prior to having a seatbelt, we didn't have the knowledge of seatbelts, and that caused significant issues. Now we have the seatbelt, and just from accurate information, now much better decisions are being made, and we're much safer in the car. So I like using that as an example for the difference between accurate and inaccurate information, what it can do for us. So we talk about myths and misconceptions on the
Mm-hmm.
show. Any myths or misconceptions come to your mind about the industry that you're in, or your business in particular?
Yeah, so I feel that probably the biggest myth or concern with hiring a designer is that it's going to add a whole lot of extra cost to the renovation. It really depends on your design needs. So if a client is looking to hire a designer to go from the planning and the helping them make the selection of the materials and finishes process right through to helping them furnish the house, then yes, that is going to be an expensive relationship. But if it's really about the focus of the renovation itself, there is a huge amount of value that working with a designer is going to bring. And in many cases, it can save a lot of money, because the design process is also forming part of the contract of what's expected of the renovation with your contracting team, whether it's us or another contractor or a DIYer. And by having that clear plan, you're going to eliminate risk of backpedaling. The perfect example is I was a while back working with a person who was building a custom home, and his builder had mentioned that he needed to hire a designer because he was second guessing a lot of the things through the process. So then he finally did hire me, and it was an amazing, fun project to work on, but it did bring the job to a standstill because they were waiting on decisions to be made. And the process of the design takes time. And then once we got through the design process, it caused some backpedaling because they had already roughed in the bathrooms and the HVAC. And suddenly, once I worked with the client to lay out how he would like the bathroom done and the kitchen laid out, it did cause them to have to break up a lot of concrete floor to relocate plumbing in the basement bathroom, and relocating the plumbing on the main floor ensuite interfered with the HVAC. And so had he worked with me at the building drawing stage, because the engineer that did the permit drawings is really focused on the structural and the overall architectural details, but the interior space planning and layout and design details is a whole other aspect. So if that person isn't working with an architectural firm with an in-house designer, then they need to outsource an interior designer to help them through that, to save them that money of being at risk of backpedaling. And the same can happen in a renovation. There are people who jump into a renovation just on verbal discussions of what they want, and then they come home and they think, oh, I thought that doorway was going to be bigger, or wasn't that supposed to be over there? And had there been a proper set of drawings and a design plan and the brainstorming process that comes with the design, then that backpedaling or level of potential of disappointment in the outcome are eliminated, thus saving money. And if not saving money, at least adding value to how the flow of the renovation goes.
Oh yeah. I mean, I talk about this all the time. Like, We are a large marketing company, yet I still spend a great deal of money on marketing each month. Marketing is very valuable to me. It's essentially spreading the message to the people you can impact the most. That's what this podcast is for. But I look at it this way. I have only so many skills. I cannot become very skillful at everything. Actually, I would argue that I can become very skillful only at a couple of things. There are so many skills out there to be had. So not only the examples that you gave, can you save money and avoid backpedaling and increased value? So that's big. But the expert, they can add additional really valuable points to that. For example, if I'm selling my home and I've never done it before, I have to learn how to sell a home. I have to learn how to list it, how to stage it, how to sell it. I have to go out there and figure out the next home that I want to buy, how to move it, all of these things. That is all going to cause me stress, and it is going to cost me a lot of time. And if we're just talking bottom line money, in most cases, I can make more money from my own time than I can spending money on the experts. Like the time that they give me back can be more financially fruitful if I use it for my business or other things. So the expert gets the project done correctly, much more likelihood than me doing it correctly. The money saved in often many cases, the value add, but also the stress. Oh my God, the amount of stress that I would be putting on myself if I wanted to redo my kitchen or not have an expert guide me through that process. It's just such a simpler process, one and done. Yes, it may seem like it costs a little extra up front, but there's all of these hidden variables that the unskilled eye, like myself, not an expert like you are, can't even see that you can see. So I'm really glad that you pointed that out, because what we see at the front is just the cost. We can't see the journey ahead of us because we're uncertain. We don't know what it looks like, especially for the person that doesn't have that expert eye. You know what that journey looks like because you've been through it so many times, and you can foresee potential complications coming down the line that I would only notice once I've stumbled over it. So I'm really glad you pointed that out. And I absolutely agree with all of our experts. I mean, I get somebody to cut my grass, even though I could. I mean, that's a pretty simple thing. They do it better than me, but it gives me back time. Get somebody to help me with my fitness. We pay people to help us with marketing. And you learn a lot of things along the way as well. Like you're now working with an expert. So you can learn a lot of skills along the way. So I love that you pointed that out. Outside of business, Stacey, what do you get up to for fun when you're not doing interior design and helping people create their dream spaces or homes? What gets you going?
So in the winter, we get together probably with friends a little more frequently, and or if we're just lounging around the house, then I tend to enjoy cooking or baking and painting artistically. Getting out to ski is always fun if Mother Nature delivers some snow for that.
This year wasn't great.
No, this year was not great. We got out twice. And then in the summer, we get outside a little more, either camping or sightseeing, cycling, and getting out on the lake on our on my stand-up paddleboard, either with my partner or with a group of friends, and just maybe simply walking the dog or smacking a ball around amateurly in a tennis court, whatever keeps us moving.
So movement is a big factor to your life. There's a lot of physical activities in there.
Yeah. I spend most of my day sitting at my desk, so I need to get up and move around.
No, I love it. And where do you go camping? Any favorite spots to recommend?
My favorite place, hands down, is Killarney.
Oh yeah.
That is my happy place. Rock Lake in Algonquin, Grundy Lake. Those are sort of the spots that I circle around. We recently went to Killbear last winter, and not last summer we went, and I was pleasantly surprised because I'd heard mixed reviews from people that have camped there. Some say it's great, others say it's very congested, but we quite enjoyed our time there too.
So when you go camping, do you find a spot and park the tent and stay, or are you portaging, you in the canoe going from spot to spot? What does it look like?
So we used to do some backpacking, but now
Mhm.
we're primarily car camping. Milton, he works very hard on job sites, so I
Yeah.
try to eliminate a little bit of roughing it. The backpacking is fun, and we speak of it fondly, and always think we should go again. We should try it again sometime, but we're kind of waiting till we have more leisurely time balanced with the business to be able to take on some of those extreme pastimes that are a little more labor intensive.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's just being out in nature, right? Whether you're
Yeah.
car camping or you're portaging or you're skiing, you're on the water. Um, Especially Simcoe County and up in Muskoka, like our landscapes are just stunning. Just being there in any capacity can be super fulfilling. But I love that you guys are into it and you're moving. I like movement quite a bit as well. I think human beings need it. I think it brings a great deal of joy to our lives.
Yeah.
So to pivot a little bit, this is our I would say probably my first or second most important question for me, most valuable question for me on here. And it's about our challenges in life. And I like to provide a little context. Sometimes I go way too long about the context, so I'll just simplify it. I think we need to talk about our hardships more simply because they're part of our life. And if it's a part of our human experience, it shouldn't be looked at in shame. It shouldn't be pushed down or hid in a closet. It's part of us. We often just want to see the good. Um, and I think it's a little bit tragic that we don't look at our hardships as a good. We often look at it as a bad or a negative because it felt uncomfortable going through it. But often through our hardships is where we grow the most. When everything's going right in my life, I'm certainly enjoying it, but I don't know that I'm learning a ton. Could be learning some, but it's when I'm being challenged by something that I don't have the answer to, that I'm not skillful enough to tackle right in that moment. I have to step back, learn new skills, or find new people to help me. And then you've become a more skillful individual and you've grown in some way. I look at human beings as being anti-fragile. And that simply means the more you hit a piece of glass, eventually it will break, and therefore it's fragile. With a human being, the more pressure you put on a muscle, the larger and stronger and fortified it gets. I would argue the same is with the mind and same with the heart. So to an extent, the more pressure you apply to us, the more effective we become. That's the way I look at hardships, and we like putting a spotlight on them so people feel a little bit more empowered and less embarrassed or shameful about their struggles in life. So is there anything that comes to mind that you're comfortable with sharing that you went through that probably sucked in the moment, probably didn't feel very good? It seems like the biggest growth periods of my life I had to pay for up front with pain and then long-term benefit or long-term gain. There's anything that came up that kind of sucked to go through, but when you look back, you recognize that I don't regret that. I wouldn't remove that from the recipe that is me. That was an integral ingredient to helping me enjoy my life more. Anything come to mind?
Well, I guess it's an intertwining of personal and business. So when I decided to start my business, I got my business license in mid-June, and about a week and a half later, my at the time husband decided he was going to leave. Fast forward almost a year later, and I launched my business despite being a single mother with a mortgage, and launched that business. And then about a year into the business, it was really struggling because I needed to keep food on the table, but I was like holding down part-time jobs on the side to ensure that there was money coming in still. And it was sort of coming to this point of like do or die. And so in 2016, I made the very difficult decision to pretty much liquidate every asset I had and just put it all into the business.
Wow.
And so I sold my house. I sold a whole lot of belongings that were, it was just stuff. And it paid off in the end. So, because my ultimate goal was to make sure that I didn't lose my house on top of everything because I couldn't pay the mortgage, and make sure that the fridge was full of food. And so being able to pull all that equity out of the house and my things allowed me to invest in the website and marketing and such, so that the business could grow to where it is today. And then there's been the roller coaster ride ever since. We all hit those, as small business owners, we all had our pity party moments in that time about 4 years ago that don't want to circle back to, but then business boomed after that in the renovation industry. And now it's come to a bit of a flat line. So I feel like I'm in this other little divot where I'm trying to figure out where we can pivot things to get through the next few months or a couple of years, however long this adjustment period is going to take for people. Because the reality is the clients I'm dealing with, they're, as their mortgages are renewing and such, they're rethinking and reprioritizing any sort of renovation plans. And so the only people that are renovating right now are the people that their lifestyles aren't being affected by the cost of housing and or are renovating because it's a must do versus I'd like to do. So yeah, it's ebbs and flows, but I think the biggest challenge I had was launching a business as a single mother who was essentially broke for a while.
Yeah. Wow. Well, first off, thank you for sharing that. Second off, that takes a great deal of courage and mental fortitude to get through. When you look back on it, if you could go back to that place, would you change anything?
Not the decision to liquidate, maybe some of my investment choices that I made with the extra equity that I was gonna tuck aside, I would have changed. And probably the only thing really is when I sold my house, the intention was to buy a small little condo or something. And so if anybody was looking into doing a similar thing, would be just to work with somebody who understands the financial ramifications a little better, because at the time that I made that decision, I thought that I was pre-approved to be able to buy a condo. And then once the house was officially sold and I was putting the offer in, it turned out that I was not pre-approved because I was a single mother with no income. And despite the fact that I had a 20% down payment, zero debt with an amazingly high credit score and still money in the bank, my annual income was too small to get approved for a mortgage, which forced me into the renting market, which was a hard pill to swallow. So yeah, I guess if I were going to offer, like, I don't have regrets in the decision because it allowed the business to get, but the woulda, shoulda, coulda moment would be just to have done a little more research to make sure, yes, I could be mortgaged. Because at the time my parents had co-signed for me to buy that post-matrimonial home. And when I thought I was pre-approved to buy a house on my own, they were quite elated to be off the hook for that. Yeah. And so, because they had other things they were looking to do, like solar panels and their own updates. And so when I found out that, no, I wasn't going to get a mortgage all on my own, I couldn't bring myself to say, hey, actually, I do need you to co-sign. So that's when I ended up back in the renter market. And it's a hard market to get out of, because 2016 was when I sold my home, which was right at the beginning of when things started to just climb here in Barrie. So
hell of a story and really a hell of a journey, ups and downs. But look at all that's come from it. And now your business is, did you say, correct me if I'm wrong, 2016 is when
2016 is when I kind of sold the house and decided to dive in. My business had its official grand opening. It was, I think, November 4th of 2015 is when the business officially started.
So we're going on 10 years almost.
Getting there, yeah.
Yeah, 10 years. Wow. That's great. I appreciate you sharing that with us. I imagine that was a very difficult time, and I imagine that it shaped you in many, many ways. And yeah, now you got this 10-year business. That's great. What is one thing you wish our listeners knew about your business in particular, Simply Design?
I guess the main thing would be is that I get very attached to my clients. I take their projects very seriously and personally. I really do genuinely care for the well-being of the outcome of the design, as well as if they move forward with the renovation process itself. And I take a huge amount of pride in my abilities to provide them with a good design, as well as to work with them to help ensure that it feels very much like their space. I kind of often jokingly say most of what I do is validate and mediate. Many of my clients already know what they want when they're coming to me. They just don't know how to make it happen and pull it all together. And so I'm here to help them pull it all together and to visualize it, because not everybody can see things in 2 dimensions. So offering 3D views of what that space could look like is a huge help. But it's all done with a whole lot of heart, and I really do love 90% of what I do in the renovation industry. Dealing with some of the fires, not so fun, but I'm pretty good at it. And that's one of the other benefits of the project management side of it is not everything runs perfectly. I can only control my core team, but sometimes we try a new supplier or there's a back order, and the client not having to deal with that is a huge asset for sure.
Oh yeah. I hear it all the time. I mean, we run the show all day, Monday and Tuesday. So we've had dozens and dozens of guests on over the years, and small and medium businesses, especially small though, they just love what they do. I hear it so often, although I'm with you, the 90% I love, there's 10% that it's like, well, I have to do this 10% to get back to the 90%. Not everything can be perfect, but it really is a labor of love. I find so many entrepreneurs, I mean, a 40-hour work week is just out the window for most of them. They're just like, I'm just doing it all the time. I'm doing it on the weekend. I'm doing it in the morning. I'm doing it in the evening. Not working every minute of every day, 16, 18 hours, but it's on their mind all the time because it is their baby. It is this thing that they created, an idea into reality, and it is this labor of love. And then we get these clients that are willing to give us a chance to help them, and we love them too. We really kind of nurture that relationship. So I'm very happy to hear you say that. And I hope the audience heard that you care, you're meticulous, and you love what you do, which that energy for me, I know when someone loves what they do. The people that I've worked with in my life, there have been some people that were just there for a paycheck. And then there have been some other people that you could just tell they loved what they did, and it made the experience drastically different for me. When someone's in it because it's their purpose compared to someone that's in it for a paycheck, there's nothing wrong with that, but there is a difference, and you know it when you're working with somebody. So the question that I'm putting in the questionnaire, my secret weapon, I do the little Mr. Burns fingers if you've ever watched Simpsons. A little bit of context. So I talk to mentors all the time on the show. They have drastically shaped my life, and I'd like to consider myself a mentor for some of the members on my team. And I think I love this line that behind every excellent person, there's an excellent teacher. Somewhere along the lines, we're getting taught by somebody. I mean, parents, we have our teachers, we have our coaches. And if you have a good teacher in some way, mentor, they can change the trajectory of your life entirely. So when I was in my early 20s, my mentor, she taught me to think about my impact. And it's been one of the most valuable things for me to think about. So much so that I, inked a bunch of those major rules on my arm so that I can see them every day, especially when I'm struggling. And she taught me to think about my impact. She said to me, I think it's very prudent for you to think about your impact up to this day. I was 23, 24, 25. Think about what impact you've had on the world so far. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Was there any purpose? Was it intentional? Think about the impact you want to have today. Be very intentional about your today, because you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. And then if you are here for as long as you are here, because we know we do have an end date, we just don't know when it's coming, what would you like your impact to be going forward? So essentially, we like to ask our guests, what do you want your impact to be, Stacey?
Well, I guess my impact really would revolve around my children and wanting them to see that I have 2 daughters, 26 and 19, and my 19-year-old just finished her nursing program. I want them to see that hard work does pay off, and that, if you stick to it, you can get there. That would be sort of the personal impact. And then I have, I do work a lot with a charity and fundraising. So I guess something that I'm going to leave behind is that sort of part of me that I've given to the fundraising events that I do. On a business side of it, we do a lot of kitchen refurbishments versus full-on renovations. And those are important to me because I am in a bit of an odd industry for somebody who's a bit of a tree hugging personality. And so if there's an opportunity to keep things out of a landfill and create a really renewed space, that's something that we really enjoy being able to do. A lot of designers or contractors might look at it and say, oh, you should just tear it out and replace it. Whereas we'll look at it, and if there is something good to work with, we'll refurbish it because it keeps it out of a landfill and breathe new life into it. And that's another level of something that I enjoy being able to say I do.
It's beautiful. So giving back to the environment, caring for your children, giving them a good role model to emulate, some good character traits, values, and then the charity. Can I ask what charity it is?
So it's Rainbows for All Children, and they operate grief support and programs for children that have struggled any sort of loss, whether it's a death or a divorce or deployment or a sense of abandonment or incarceration. Like, the list is pretty endless, and just watching how some of my personal life things have affected my children, and learning what I've learned through helping or providing support and fundraising for that organization. I sometimes wonder what better position my own kids could have been in had I known really how those sort of life changes really affect the mental health well-being of a young mind. And so, I host a euchre tournament every fall, and I'm in the process of currently pulling together quite a formal gala this coming May 11th that is pretty hopefully going to be an exciting event for our city of Barrie, because there's not a lot for adults to do and go out and have a classy night out here in our lovely little city. So
beautiful. How do we find out more about that event coming up?
So if you go to Rainbows for All Children Canada's website, you can find out more about that, or people can, anybody can email me directly at Stacey at simplydesign.ca, and I can share with them the links on how they can be involved with that, whether it's because they want to attend or whether they want to sponsor it.
It's beautiful. And that leads me into my last question is, now we know how to get a hold of, it was called Rainbows for Children?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rainbows for All Children, yeah.
Rainbows for All Children, perfect. You can go to that website for that May event coming up if you want to help some children in our local communities. But how can people get a hold of you, Stacey? Can you give us that email again and any other contact information or social platforms so we can get in touch with you?
So my email would be my name, Stacey at simplydesign.ca, or you can go to my website, simplydesign.ca, and through that you can learn a lot about me as a business and a person, and check out my gallery of projects, as well as there's the links for all of our social platforms, which is Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok currently. And then you can also look up my Google page, our Google listing, because that's where you'll see a lot about what our great clients have taken the time to say about my services and my partner and I as a team. So those are really the best ways to check out more and learn about me. The website has a lot of the after photos and the information on what we do for services and myself as a designer in person. The social media platforms, anybody following that gets to see a little bit more of that design and renovation process through our stories and posts that we put there.
Well, we love those transformation pictures when we can see something. Again, it's an idea. First, we make it in our mind, then we make it in reality. You take this kitchen or this basement, and then you see what it actually goes through its journey, and then to that transformation photo. It's a very cool thing for us humans to see. It was a pleasure talking to you, Stacey. I really appreciate you sharing your business with us, your business story, a bit into your own life and your own challenges, and really what you're trying to create out there. Sharing that impact is very meaningful for me. I hear it often. We have such good people in Simcoe County. There's good people everywhere, but that's what we focus on. And so many people talk about the same impact. They just want to help their kids. They want to help their local community, their local charities. And we hear this over and over and over again, and it's just wonderful to hear. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast, Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com or call 705-413-3775.